Now begin part two of this press conference on a rainy afternoon here at the Japanese Grand Prix. Joining us from left to right, we have Paddy Lowe and then Yasuki Hasegawa and Ayo Komatsu. Hasegawa-san, if we could start with you, please. It's been a good couple of races for McLaren Honda, particularly Stoffel Vandoorne, 7th in both of the last two races. Just wondering how much satisfaction have those results given you, and how confident are you of another good result on home turf this weekend?
Obviously, the last Singapore and Malaysia, we got several points which were very good. But of course, we are not satisfied, so we are aiming more higher all the time. But we feel the kind of relieved to get a decent steps. So of course, we'd like to keep this same performance for here in Suzuka.
What can you hope for this weekend?
So far, get some points. Yep.
Get some points. Okay. Well, and with regards to next year, let's just talk a little bit about the relationship with Toro Rosso. How do you think that relationship might differ to the one that you've had with McLaren?
I don't think it's a huge difference. So yeah, we have already started to the preparation for next year, and yeah, they are very kind, and they are very excited to have a new partnership, which we, of course, are feeling the same thing. No, there's not a big difference, so they're just a new partner.
Is the commercial relationship going to be the same as it was with McLaren?
Of course, the McLaren Honda, the name of the McLaren Honda is very famous in Japan, at least, and maybe in other countries. So from that point of view, could be the expectation from the audience is a bit less, so that we need to show that we can make it better. So from that point of view, maybe I will feel a bit less pressure from the outside, but from the inside, there's no difference. So we need to prove that we can do a better job for next year.
Okay, thank you very much. Ayo, if we could come to you now. Second season of the Haas Formula One team. Your perspective on how it's gone, how would you sum up the last 18 months with Haas? How's it gone?
Yeah, it's going well. I think, of course, we'd like to do better. But from last year to this year, we made a very big improvement. And even though it may not be obvious to everyone, but consistency is better than last year, and our understanding is better. But I think now that we made a step from last year, we now know again how much we need to improve for next year. So really concentrating for this next step.
Now, you've worked with Romain for a long time. Drivers like to progress every year. Just how have you seen him grow in a small team like that? Because we hear him a lot on the radio, and it's not always complimentary.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I know Romain since 2009. I've done every single race he's done in Formula One together. So we understand each other pretty well. But yeah, he's a quite emotional guy. But then what comes out negative on the radio is what actually makes him quick as well. So you can't have it both ways. Then we both understand what the downside of that. So we just got to manage it, trying to channel it in the right way so that, yeah, everybody works in a positive direction.
Now, I guess this is the time of year where you work through the good points and the bad points of the current car, and obviously want to translate the good points into next year. Just could you elaborate a little bit on the good and the bad of the VF17?
I think our baseline is pretty good, but then operating window, shall I say, is not very wide. So when we can get the tires to work, okay, you can see the potential. We can be in Q3, but when there are some events where we really cannot switch the tires on, then we are fighting to get out of Q1. In Malaysia, Saturday was our lowest point, both cars out in Q1. So that's the bad point. So for next year, I think we really need to keep this good base, but then trying to have the wider window so that we can work with, obviously next year we're going to have a more different compounds as well. So that would be the key, trying to work with a different compound, trying to get a consistency out of it.
Thank you very much. Paddy, thank you for waiting. Coming to you now. Let's start by talking about drivers. There's a lot of speculation in the press about who is going to partner Lance Stroll in the team next year. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you want from that driver and indeed who is in the running?
So yeah, it seems like we're one of the last chairs available for next year. Of course, Felipe is very much in the frame, very, very high on our list of possibilities. But we owe it to ourselves to, take a look around and see what could be the best option for the team going forwards. As you say, that will be a partner to Lance. Lance has made great progress through the year. We're seeing him particularly in races to perform consistently. So we need a driver to complement Lance on that side of the garage. But all options are under consideration, to be honest. You've probably seen the number of names that are floating around that we're looking at, but honestly, the range is almost unlimited. We will consider all ideas. We're not in a super hurry to do so, and we'll just make sure we land the best lineup we can.
But is the idea to have an experienced driver alongside Lance?
I think there are many attributes you could attach to different drivers, and experience could be one of them. But we may weigh that against other things. So we're not fixed on any particular aspect.
Because where is Williams' natural habitat in this pit lane at the moment? You're lying 5th in the Constructors' Championship. Are you looking for a driver who can help leapfrog you up to 3rd? Is that the ambition for next season?
Yeah, we're always ambitious to move forwards, as all teams. And I think we recognise that the driver or drivers are a very key element in the team. Clearly, you need a quick car as well, but the driver is probably the single most important factor in the end to take the package forward and score the points and indeed win races. So I've seen that in the past, what a difference drivers can make to the racing proposition. So it's a very important decision.
And just tell us a little bit about next year's car. What's going on back in Grove? Encouraged by the signs you're seeing in the wind tunnel, for example?
Lots of good work going on. Yeah, we're making quite a few changes. We see lots of opportunities out there that we're determined to exploit, and projects going well. Yeah. At the same time, we recognise we've got some very, very tough competition out there. Some teams that we respect greatly who are also fighting to move forward. So it's going to be a tough space next year. I think we all want to have cars that can get safely into Q3. That's a kind of mark of respectability, really, in Formula One. But there are quite a few teams that will be trying to squeeze into that quite small box.
Thank you to all three of you. Let's now open this press conference up to the floor, and please remember to give your name and publication. First question, please. Question at the front.
Dieter Rankin, Racing Lines. Hasegawa-san, you've just heard what Paddy said, that the drive is a crucial element in the overall package. With McLaren, you had various world champions driving for you. With Toro Rosso next year, although they haven't confirmed their lineup, the chance of them having a Grand Prix winner, let alone a world champion, are fairly remote at this stage. Do you believe that a driver is not important to drive a project forward, particularly at the state that Honda finds itself in at the moment?
Sorry, for the next year, you mean? Or? And the future. Yeah, of course, the driver's project is very important. And of course, I encourage the Japanese motor racing culture as well. So to do that, the Japanese driver is also very important. But currently, we have nothing we can tell about the drivers for the Toro Rosso. And we don't have contract. We don't have any position to tell. Of course, we may negotiate with them. So maybe we'd like to discuss about that, but it is not a contract matter. So that maybe just as a partner, as a friendship matter.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Dan Knudsen, Auto Action and Speed Sport. Paddy, there have been reports that you were going to test Robert Kubica and Paul di Resta in a 2014 car. Can you enlighten us on what is going to happen?
Yeah, you're correct. We will test those two drivers. We won't give away any information around what we do within those tests. That's a private matter for us. And I would stress that that doesn't mean that they're the only drivers under consideration. As I said earlier, we're considering quite a large range, of which they are only 2 possibilities.
Thank you. Next one, please.
Dan Knutz again. Paddy, can you at least tell us when this test will happen?
In the next few weeks.
Next question.
Hasegawa-san, I'd like to just clarify my question earlier on about the fact that it wasn't so much aimed at Japanese drivers, but just generally whether you believe or not that a proven or established driver lineup is important to develop your Honda engine project going forward, because you had world champions, whereas at Toro Rosso you're unlikely to even have a Grand Prix winner. Do you believe that an established driver lineup is important?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't answer about the question. Yeah, of course. The driver's feedback is very important to evaluate the engine itself and to find out any issue from the engine, and also to stop the engine as soon as something happens. Yeah. So from that point of view, the Fernando, Jensen, and the Stoffel was perfect for the development driver and the evaluator. So that, yeah, it is very important.
But you won't have that next year?
So far, as I mentioned, we cannot tell. So of course, I'm very happy to have Pierre Gasly, so that he has a very talented driver. But I didn't work with him together directly. But I expect him very much. So that I can tell. So that I don't know for next year, but we expect to have, of course, a good driver.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?
Jens Nagler, Bild. Question to Paddy Lowe. How intense has your contact to Nico Rosberg been throughout the last weeks? And did the subjects you talk about change since he is managing Robert?
I didn't fully understand the question, but was it you were saying what contact have I had with Nico? Actually, honestly, I've just had a couple of phone conversations with him. But as you point out, yeah, he's now doing some work with Robert Kubica. So he has an interest in promoting that idea to us. So I've had some conversations with him on that subject. As you say, a bit different from the previous conversations that I had with him the last few years.
Thank you. Next question.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines. Paddy, you may have missed it earlier on when Cyril was here because you're outside doing the TVs, but he said that the chances were pretty good that Marcin Witkowski would be starting early April in a role of executive director. Does it concern you that the gardening leave, for want of a better description or expression, is not sufficient given the relationship that he's had with teams? What do you believe is the ideal time, and what do you think of the situation?
Well, the first point is to congratulate Marcin. It looks like he's got an excellent job, very senior role at Renault. I worked with Martin in the past at McLaren, so you know he's a strong engineer, and that's great that he has that opportunity. But I think you're correct. The concern amongst all the teams has been the very short period of isolation between a role as an officer of the FIA, very senior officer, and working with a team. And it's very critical that the teams have a strong degree of trust in their work with the FIA. That really underpins the ability of the FIA to police the sport from a technical point of view. So it's an important subject. The teams will be discussing that with the FIA to understand what should happen in this case or cases in the future. So I don't have any preset ideas around what solution should exist. Or even could exist. Amongst the teams, you know, with senior engineers, we have very long notice periods, as you know, for the same sort of reasons.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?
Sam Collins, Race Car Engineering. Question for Paddy Lowe and Komatsu-san. We've had almost a season of running on these new generation of cars now, and almost every team I've spoken to is mentioned in the narrow operational window of these cars and getting the tyres to work. What is it about the current rule set that makes that operational window so hard to exploit?
Ayo, do you want to start? Or Paddy then?
I think it's, I mean, it's just mainly down to tyres. So the tyre defines to a great extent, you know, the operating window of the car, because it's fundamentally the temperature window of the tyre, sometimes the pressure window, where the tyre delivers the best performance. So depending on how narrow or wide or peaky that window is, determines then how difficult it is to make the car work at the fastest level. So I think that's the subject. I don't think it's necessarily that more difficult than last year. The levels of grip are higher, the lap times are quicker, but I think it feels just about as difficult as it was last year, to me.
Ayo, anything to add?
No, it's exactly agree. I don't think it's the cars, it's more to do with tires. And some tires we can work very well any condition, some tires we can't really need specific conditions. So yeah, it's mainly down to tires.
Thank you. Next question.
A question to Hasegawa and Kobatsu-san. This is very domestic question, but having someone like you in FIA press conference as a key member of the Formula One team, giving a lot of hope and for the young Japanese boys who would like to, who dreaming to be in Formula One, to work as engineers. Is it possible to have any, advice to make the dream happen for those young Japanese boys or girls? Any words?
Career advice.
Okay, yeah, I was interested in Formula One since I was a junior high school student, and I wanted to do Formula One, so then I thought, okay, it's better to come to England, so I decided to leave Japan after doing high school. So I guess advice is don't limit yourself. If you like, don't ever think you can't do it. Just assume that you can do it, then try your best. And then if you tried your best, even if you fail, I think you learn a great deal from it. So there's no downside, so just try it, believe you can do it. If I can give advice, that's advice.
Hasegawa-san, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'm completely different from him. So that he was aiming to be the Formula One engineer, but I was joining Honda, and I was just working as a mass production development. And I've never expect to be the Formula One engineer, but I always constantly do my job all the time and to improve myself. So the chance will come from outside. So that although I didn't expect. So just do your job and then just do it, improve by himself or herself is important, I think.
Paddy, just can you tell us a little bit about how international the teams are? How many different nationalities, for example, might you have at Williams?
I haven't got a number, but it is a very international sport, not just in terms of drivers, but also in terms of engineers and all the staff within the teams. I think that's what makes it such an exciting and rich industry. And I'd echo the comments of my colleagues here, that if you have the determination, actually it's not as difficult as you may imagine to make the progress and achieve the position that you may want working in a team or some other part of the industry. So, never think it's out of your reach. Go after it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions? Nope, I think that's it. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Good luck this weekend, and a full transfer